So, I went to go see The Equalizer. It's the new Denzel Washington movie. It's based off of a mid-80s TV show, which, admittedly, I never actually got around to seeing. And it's directed by someone who has one of my favorite names out of the directors, Antoine Fuqua. He directed Training Day and one of my least favorite theatrical release films of last year, Olympus Has Fallen. Denzel Washington plays Robert McCall. He's a man who works at a product placement-free version of a Home Depot. He's a man who's friendly and likable. He goes out of his way to help coworkers, complete strangers. He's just a really nice guy. Of course, he's also a man who has a secret history of being a complete and utter badass, like certifiable, grade A, hands down, don't mess with him badass. So when one of his friends gets beaten to within an inch of their life by the Russian mob, he takes it a bit personally, goes out of his way to just beat the ever-living heck out of them for the entire movie. That's pretty much, the Russian mob takes offense to him beating the heck out of him, sends in more people, he beats you get the idea. That's the film. Of course, a simple seen-it-before plot doesn't mean the film's bad, right? So how's The Equalizer shape up? The answer to that is, honestly, kinda. For instance, Antoine Fuqua has this reoccurring problem of being more style than substance. Man, that's an issue here. Like, everything looks fantastic. The fight scene's suitably badass. The cinematography looks just amazing. He uses a lot of slow-mo. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot of slow-mo, just too much. It looks great when he does it, but he could have cut out, more than a bit. And so there's some scenes, and they get more and more throughout the film. Like, there's a scene where Denzel Washington is walking away from an exploding oil tanker, and it looks fantastic. He's walking away slowly, all slow-mo, of course, and you see the explosion behind him and a blast wave coming up behind, the rocks flying, and it just looks cool. The entire scene is just, like, almost all in slow-mo, really cool, but it's completely divorced from the film. I mean, okay, so it's a Russian oil tanker, and Denzel Washington's, sticking it to the Russians at this point, but there's no, like, you don't see him going up and planting the bombs, how he got onto the oil tanker, how he did anything relating to the oil tanker, and it's just him. You see a scene of the oil tanker and him walking away, an explosion, next scene. There's nothing there. It's simply there to look cool, and there's more and more scenes of that as the film goes on, and it gets kind of more and more over the top, but, it looks really great while it's doing that. So, yeah. And maybe that's the thing about the movie. It's just an example of too much, right? So there's slow-mo, but there's too much of it. There's setup, but there's actually maybe a little bit too much setup. Like, nothing really happens in the movie until about the halfway point, which is a little over an hour into the film. I looked at my watch, and we were an hour into the film, and not much of the plot had actually happened. It was all setup, which I like setup, but there's a point where it's, again, too much. That's really the thing. It's atmosphere. A lot of atmosphere, but too much. You just cut back a half hour, drop some of the slow-mo, right? Some of the more irrelevant action scenes, because there's a couple, and you would have had a absolutely fantastic movie, but as it is, you're just left with, well, kind of a really fun film. Yeah, I know, I'm saying all these things about it, but it's honestly, I found it to be really entertaining, with problems and caveats, but entertaining nonetheless. I mean, the acting in this film's really solid. I very much enjoyed Denzel Washington. He plays such a good, just nice, friendly guy, and such a good badass, and he got to play both in one role here. Really suited him. The villain, played by Martin Sokus, just fantastic. Very erudite but threatening, right? And the action scenes, I don't know that I can stress this enough, but as silly as they were, because some of them were really kind of silly, they were so satisfying and so fun. I just really, really cool, fun action scenes. It's just the film had problems that it entertained you into overlooking while the film was going on, which, I mean, that's hallmark of a good, fun action flick, right? So in the end, the film's obviously not for everyone. I enjoyed it, and if you're in the market for a fun vigilante action revenge film, you'll probably enjoy it too. Of course, on the other hand, if you're bothered by things like way too much CGI, or the fact that Denzel Washington plays the character is fairly OCD, but only sometimes, and, plot threads that sort of don't seem to go anywhere, things like that, then you might want to stay away. But it's not a bad movie all told, so hopefully that helps you folks, and until next time, enjoy film.